Alright, so due to the success of the last video, I'm gonna use this new spotlight to talk about a topic I've really wanted to talk about for a while now. You know it. You love it. It's the one and only. Now, before we can cover the bridge, we have to cover the railroad that made it. The railroad in question being the Central Railroad of New Jersey, made in 1831 before eventually being folded into Conrail in 1976. The railroad spanned from Scranton, Pennsylvania all the way down to New Jersey and primarily did passenger service, but also did a mix of freight service. Now, the bridge we'll be talking about today is known as the Newark Bay Bridge, which connects Elizabeth to Bayonne. The bridge in question was built by the Central of New Jersey in 1883, and safe to say the bridge had a very rocky development. While I couldn't find any images of what it looked like in 1883, I did find images of what it looked like in 1904. Safe to say, it's a very interesting design and one that looks very different than what it would look like later on. Now, why don't we skip to the future? Let me tell you, the future has better sounding microphones. But we have to skip to a very specific year, 1926, because that's when the bridge went from this to this. And that is one hell of a makeover. Now, if you look at the design, you can see that there's two lift spans that cover over this channel, and how they're both about 300 feet long. Now, it turns out this bridge actually has some very interesting World War II history, as New Jersey and New York both used the bridge for over 300 trains in order to supply troops and materials for the American efforts in the European theater. And that is pretty interesting. Now, normally I don't like talking about this, but because this is a critical part of the bridge's history, I'm kind of forced to. On September 15th, 1958, a C&J commuter train consisting of two C&J GP9s plunged off the south span into the water below, killing about 48. Now again, if you want a more in-depth review about the crash, then I recommend you watch Thunderbolt 1000 Siren Productions video. He keeps pumping out these things, and let me tell you, they're actually really fucking good, so go give it a watch. But that wasn't the end of the bridge's trouble. In 1966, the French freighter SS Washington collided with the northeast lift span, rendering two tracks unusable. This highlighted the bridge's dangerous stance with boats, especially seen with an image like this, where the boat just barely squeezes in. Now, while the bridge was repaired, further repairs done to it to improve its design were never accomplished. The railroad in question, the Central of New Jersey, was spiraling down into a deep, dark pit which it could not recover from, and eventually it was folded into Conrail in 1976. The last train would cross the bridge in 1978, before eventually the U.S. Coast Guard demanded the destruction of the lift spans after it was deemed unsafe for shipping. The city of Bayonne tried to save the bridge, but, you're going up against the United States Coast Guard. What the fuck are you gonna do? The lift spans were demolished in 1980, and when it came clear that a replacement for the lift spans were never accomplished, the rest of the rails were demolished in 2012. And now, all that's left are a few lift spans, which I actually found on Google Maps, and right beside it looks like a memorial. And so, brought up as one of the most important pieces of infrastructure on the Central New Jersey was nothing more than a few barges in the middle of the ocean that are just waiting for their day to be demolished. But there's more! See, there's actually a few more Newark Bay bridges in the area. There's one over here by Penn Station, this random one over here, which I think looks pretty cool, and the main attraction, this one up north, by this Newark Bay Bridge, that's used for cars. This bridge in question was built in the 1930s by the Lehigh Valley, before eventually it was also folded into Conrail. But unlike this bridge, the US Coast Guard didn't deem it as a shipping hazard, so it was allowed to stay and still carries freight trains from across the coast. In fact, there's a rail yard right around here, and if you look close enough, you can actually see the bridge off in the distance. So while the Newark Bay Bridge may be demolished, its legacy lives on in the hundreds of other bridges in the area, and the ones that have rail yards that look like the average Texas highway. And in case you're wondering, because I know I was, these bridges are used by free railroads in the modern day: CSX, Norfolk Southern, and the New Jersey Transit. Oh, and if you want to find these bridges for yourself, they're actually pretty easy to find on Google Maps. Here's the locations in case you're wondering. And thus ends this video, which I've been really wanting to cover now because this is on a topic I've wanted to cover about 4 times and I failed. But so far, the SIF attempt I'm actually pretty proud of. If you like this type of content, stay subscribed because I got more of it coming. And see ya later. Yeehaw! Penis!